We're 3 minutes and 17 seconds late.
Wow. I know. We're so terrible.
That's a lot of talking.
It's a lot better than our 30 minutes being late before.
Fire me.
I think you just went live with you saying, fire me. No.
Is that the opposite of quiet
show,
quitting, though?
This time.
What'd you say, Marty?
No, it started with you saying 3 minutes and 30 seconds late. That's where it started.
Oh. And we broke Lauren.
That's exact. Like everybody that watches this live recording is going to hear that.
That's good, I think. That's a good background. What did you call the outtakes? That'll be good at outtake content.
Yes. Do some outtake content.
Well, this, every time that we record these streams, the YouTube folks get a great pre-show like that person honking their horn.
You know who's really good at pre-shows? Not to plug anyone else's shows, but I am a Patreon for Daily Tech News Show, and he does a great pre-show only in Discord, and then they go live on Twitch, and then the actual show starts. And when they go live on Twitch is what the podcasters get. It's interesting how those work out.
And if you guys want it, I just put the link for the YouTube in chat.
Okay. That means go share it on your socials.
If you'd like to. All right. Well, so we've got a good show lined up.
I said, that's cool. You can click the YouTube button in Zoom where it tells you that you're live, and then click YouTube again, and it takes you right to the link.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that either.
I'm putting my pick in the group chat for show notes.
Yeah, I run this podcast, and I don't even have a pick yet. Okay.
Yeah, me neither, but I'll come up with one.
I just got one.
See, live stream people, this is how prepared we are.
Yeah.
Mastodon.
I actually...
Oops, wrong website.
When I do podcasts and things like that, I do not prepare. In fact, whenever I do public speaking, I don't prepare. Because if I do terrible.
You'll stumble over your words because you're trying to make it sound as professional as you prepared for.
Right.
Yep, I can relate.
So I just don't prepare.
You feel like it's got to be perfect because you worked all that time to make something. You're trying to make it flow good and all that instead of it just being natural.
Right.
I must prepare. Oh. Must.
You're one of them. Okay.
I'm one of those people.
That's the only reason the podcast is still around.
All right. Are we ready to go?
I'm ready.
Yep, I'm ready.
Michael B's I just got distracted from all the Mastodon notifications.
Michael B's Mastodoning it.
So
Mastodon.
I had 5 Mastodon clients on my phone, and we're going to talk about that today. 5 Mastodon clients. Oh, and we got an Amber Alert. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the iACast.
Android, shut up. Okay, we're just going to have to let that finish.
See, this is good content for outtakes. This is what we call outtake content.
So... Android, just learned something new about Android. The lock button does not stop the Amber Alert sounds.
That's frustrating.
Yes, it is.
I'm not going to get into that right now. One of the problems, one of the problems with Amber Alerts for me, sometimes I wish you can opt out, and I think you can, if I remember right, Michael, correct me. I'm not going to see a blue car driving down the middle of the road.
I keep them on just because I feel like if there's any way I can help, I mean, I know there's not, but if there's any way I can help, or if I have heard something, then, I think it's worth.
Another thing to think about that I just thought of is, Taylor could have met me, and I just said her name because that's the first time I saw on Twitter, could have met me for lunch and asked, hey, did you happen to catch what color that car was that was on that Amber Alert earlier? So it does keep me as a blind user informed. So I see that too.
Yep. And we have 2 watchers. So Thank you, folks. And what's really nice is we are now at 101 subscribers on YouTube. So
Sweet.
How many? I think I'm at 107. I think.
my personal channel has 50 subscribers, so I'm trying to get that up. And
That could be your pick. Oh, I'm 108.
oh, nice.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go on mute.
All right, let's go ahead and start this thing off, and we will get to talking about some news. So, all right, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the iACast. All right, I'm back with the usual crew of late. We have Michael Babcock,
Hello.
Marty Sobo,
Hey, all.
and Lauren Flinner.
Hello, everyone.
All right, so we want to start off today talking about some of our latest content and some of our news that we've done. And Michael and Marty, you guys have been very busy with Unmute. So do y'all want to talk about the latest episodes and topics that you guys have been talking about?
Sure. So in this past show, well, the basic idea of the show is to help people and get their questions answered. So we go live in the ACB community every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. West. And people come and ask their tech questions, whatever it is, and we do the best that we can to answer their questions. We'll also talk about other topics that come up. People maybe ask a question about a new topic, or if there happens to be a down moment, we'll talk about a topic. We talked about some of the new security issues that came out in this latest edition of Mac and iOS. We talked about the new HomePod a little bit, and we talked about just the overall iOS and macOS updates that came out previous to this past show. So, but mostly we're answering people's questions and helping them out that way. So, Michael, you want to talk about the podcast and when it comes out and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick recap of what's been published lately. Today, we published a episode talking about our live recording to podcast process. So the steps that we take to turn the live recording Marty just told you all about into a podcast. This past Tuesday, of course, was the live recording. And then the previous episode, which was Sunday, was a piece of content that I recorded showing you Google Lookout on the Blind Shell Classic 2. So that's what we've been publishing on Unmute. What's been going on over at the iACast, Michael?
So at the iACast, we were on kind of a strange schedule because of the changes with iOS and or the Macs and all those things and HomePods. So we are recording a week apart from our previous episode, but these will come out 2 weeks apart just as normal now. So we're back on our usual schedule, but so we've done that, and we've also had a new, we've published all those episodes, and we're going to have new content coming up pretty soon for the Hands on Safety podcast, which is done by Leslie Dixon. And, we're doing this show, but some exciting news is that we have a new way to listen to all of our content all day, every day. And that's the iACast Network radio station. So it's through Live 365. It's not really radio, it's a podcast station, but they call everything radio stations there. But you can go to iacast.net/listen and in your browser, and you can listen to that all the time. You could also get the Live 365 app, and you can find us there as well. I really like it. We have a schedule that goes on during the day, and then after about 6 or 7 o'clock at night, it just starts going with whatever it feels like playing. So check that out. Have you guys used that yet? What are y'all's thoughts on the new station?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a great way to be able to put on content and just have it kind of play in the background while you're doing work, or whether you're doing stuff, around the office, for me anyway. I like going back and hearing the shows, and besides the shows I'm on, it's cool to be able to hear the other shows I'm not on. It's a great way to just be able to put it on and just let it go. If you're into that kind of content, it's fun. Yeah, definitely.
I like it because I'm a radio guy at heart, and I like radio and automation, and being able to get that stuff together has been fun to hear Michael talking about, and the few times I've jumped in there and looked at it. But more importantly, I think we often produce content, and it's really not that difficult to produce content, but being able to leverage that content that's been produced and have it in another medium that people can hear it will just help all around.
Right. And it's just kind of neat, like what was said, going back and just listening to old shows. Like, okay, how did I do on that one? Or is there content on this network I haven't heard? And that's what I've always dreamed of for the iACast network, is to have content that I haven't heard. And so that's exciting to me. So I'm glad we got that off the ground, and it will just get better and better. And we're going to have new content and new ways to engage with that station. And in fact, I think it'd be even neat if we did technology discussion shows, like where we just, pop on the radio station and just say, hey, we're going to do a show, an impromptu show. That'd be kind of fun just to talk to
That would be
people.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Or we can do something, for example, say the next keynote is going to be for Apple. We can jump on there and we can get live reactions to whatever they're talking about and answer people's questions, stuff like that. That'd be a really fun event.
The only thing I'm thinking about with that may be an issue is, we've talked about that in planning and things like that before, but one thing that Apple does do that may be a little iffy is sometimes they like to play live music in their feeds. And if it's not copyrighted, or if it's copyrighted, that kind of thing, that could pose some issues.
Yeah, but you can always just have our live reactions, just because that may not be as exciting, but you can pull audio out of the mix, and that's the point of this whole thing. Is we don't really know what it's going to turn into, but it's there if you're interested in listening. And
right.
Michael, how do they listen?
So, like I said earlier, you could go to iacast.net/listen. That will get you there. You could go to the Live 365 app and search for iACast Network. And eventually, once I get the time, it will be in the iAccessibility app that is in beta right now. So that will be the next feature coming in. So if you want to become part of the test flight, I'll be putting that on social media soon.
I want to be part of the test flight.
Well,
Fly, said, Michael, fly.
Who said y'all had a choice? Oh. All right. So let's move on to actual tech news, because there's been a lot this year, guys. It's pretty incredible. I was talking to Lauren earlier, and it's still February. January. It should be February.
Why are you trying to rush the year already? Gosh.
No, I wish it would rush, because last year went so fast, and then this month there's so many things that have been happening. All this new tech news, my apartment flooded, work, all these things, creating a radio station. It's like,
it's only January. You still got 11 months to go.
Right. What else is going to happen? So, it's just January, and there's been a lot of tech news. Specifically now, all these different companies are laying off workers. And, is this a necessary thing, or do you think tech companies are just, they had poor planning and they just have to let these people go?
I think it's a mixture of a lot of different things, but when times are good, they hire tons of people, they grow, they expand. Then times get tight, and then how do you save money? Then you got to cut back, which means, either you stop a project or you lessen a project, whatever you have to do. But with that means you're cutting down the people that are working on that project. So then there's going to be layoffs. So it's a bummer, but I guess it's a nature of the beast. If you're taking on another company, for example, a big acquisition that happened recently was Microsoft buying Activision and Blizzard. And they're doing cutoffs and reorganizing and doing all kinds of stuff there. So it just all depends. Every company's just a little bit different. So,
and I think the Activision Blizzard deal is still being contested. So I don't know that that's going to be a thing, but they're owning Bethesda and ZeniMax and id Software. They laid off a lot of those folks. And now Google has just done a bunch of layoffs, and I think I heard that Meta is as well. So
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's interesting how, and I know you had kind of mentioned it, so I don't know much about it. I'd love to hear if you can explain what it is, or possibly was, killed by Google as a thing. But the hardest hit group of people at Google for layoffs was on the Fuchsia OS. So what was Fuchsia, Michael? And do you see that being impactful in the future?
Fuchsia was supposed to be the.
Well, still is. It hasn't been killed. I can't say. I don't think. Has it?
No, I still say supposed to be. And the reason why I say that is it is supposed to be the Android replacement.
So that's going to be the new operating system. That's
why I say supposed to be. Because yes, they're using it in a few products. It's kind of like Tizen is used on Samsung TVs and things like that, but they still use Android for everything else. I kind of see that as the same as Fuchsia. It's supposed to replace Android, but there's not been any real traction to make that happen. And now a big portion of their team was cut. I think it was 16%, but I might be wrong on that number.
Well, here's the thing. It's going to be just like everything else Google does. They're going to build it out, and then they're just going to kill it and go on to the next thing.
Well,
it seems to be their thing that they do. They love to build stuff and then just abandon it and then bail out on it.
Well, they're trying to kill that too, because they just removed and laid off a lot of their research and development teams. So I think they're trying to remove that R&D element that they create new projects and kill them.
Yeah.
And so here's a perfect example of a lot of layoffs. If you've got, a thing that you want to build or that you're building and you put it out there to really get it going, so you hire a whole team around whatever that particular project is, and then you decide, it's not doing what we want, or it's not looking how we want, or maybe there's other things we have to concentrate on, so they stop working on that project and they kill it. And then if they don't have a place for the team that they hired for that particular project, then, well, they get let go. So, they build a lot of things and end up just canning them. So it's kind of their way of, I don't know what, but it's kind of interesting.
I still wonder what's happened these days to, if you hire an employee that's a developer, they don't have to work on just one thing. What happened to recycling developers into other projects? I feel like that's not done much.
Well, right, but you got to have a place on another team for a developer to go to. If you don't have another open spot somewhere, then you end up having to get rid of people.
Well, that is true, but let's look at Android, right? Let's look at Android or even iOS, right? Mm-hmm. We've heard reports, and this is kind of another news topic that is interesting, that Apple is moving a lot of their iOS and Mac people off of these projects to work on VR and AR. Now, I don't think that's such a good idea, but that's the rumors.
Yeah. But at least they're moving them instead of saying, we're done with this project. Let's let you go now. And I see where you're coming at from that, for sure.
And from what I understand, they're trying to do things a little bit differently, where they're pushing out more updates throughout the year for stability and bug fixes, opposed to always working on new features. So a lot of the time they're going to be having a team that's going to be going through doing bug fixes and, making things more reliable, stuff like that. And then they'll have also, on the opposite, they'll have new features and things are adding and whatever else. So if that's the case and they're really going to do that, I'm for that, because sometimes it does really take them a long time to get through getting bugs fixed and working things out. And even when they do fix some bugs, but then they have other bugs that pop up. And then there's things that just seem like they never really ever get fixed, no matter how much you ask. So,
and we have Taylor Arndt in the comments, and she made the suggestion that, maybe make the employees contractors, so it would be, they work on specific projects and then they're gone after that. I think that a lot of times that does happen, but I think so many times these companies are used to hiring just like standard companies would, like, your regular W-2 employees, like that just work there forever. But I think you're going to you're going to start seeing changes in developer hiring to be more contractual.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, coming from a business perspective, when you do that, I guess the business is saving money, because if you're hiring someone as a contractor, then you're not paying for that person to have all of those benefits that a regular full-time employee would have, PTO, which is paid time off, medical benefits, vacation time, all these other things. So, if you're a contractor, you would have more control over what you do, when you do it, and how you do it. But at the same time, you lose out on a lot of those benefits that you would get, and you probably wouldn't have any kind of long-term employment once the particular project you're working on ends. You would be moving on to the next thing, unless they rehire or re-up your contract for continuing on that project that you're working on, or maybe they bring you in for a different project. But a lot of people these days, they want to try and get as much as they can out of a company when they work there. So they really want that PTO, and definitely they want the benefits, the medical benefits, because these days it's so expensive. It's hard to pay for it on your own. It's almost impossible to pay for it on your own, actually. So some of that stuff's pretty important to a lot of people.
Right. And Taylor also pointed out, there's no payroll tax, and that, the world's changing. Even accessibility, is going towards contractor roles. So I want to go ahead and push us forward into another topic that I thought was pretty interesting is there's a lot of new buzz on about Mastodon again. Twitter keeps changing. I don't know if we've talked about third-party apps even being discontinued on here, but those have been disabled from Twitter. And can y'all believe that they actually went back and said it's always been that we don't allow third-party apps?
That's
I've
ridiculous.
never heard that. That's crazy.
Never heard that either. There's been so many good third-party apps for Twitter, companies that have been there since day one and had huge followings and have made great apps and have been supported. So for someone to say they never supported third-party apps is a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, we in comics and book industries, they call that a retcon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's wrong. They've always supported it. In fact, Twitterific had their client out before Twitter's. Did y'all know that?
I did not know that. That's really interesting.
Yep, that was my first introduction to using Twitter on a mobile device. Or do you remember way back when, Michael, you had to text your tweets?
No, I never did that.
Oh my!
I did that when way back when I had my old Twitter account. Yep, text in tweets,
Wow.
and then you would pick people who you wanted to get text alerts of, and then you could reply to those texts to send a reply
didn't
to
know
them.
that.
Like,
Oh my goodness.
Twitter started on a text messaging service, and then apps came along that made it a lot better of a lot more pleasant of an experience. And I think apps are really what built out Twitter. So it's interesting that they say that.
And they Twitterific is how they came up with tweet.
Right.
So now I think a lot of people are really taking to Mastodon. Almost all the tech people I follow are now on Mastodon. And what I like about it is that you can have those natural conversations with people that are in the tech industry on Mastodon. And this is public knowledge, but Phil Schiller from Apple has been spotted on Mastodon.
Yeah.
I think
95 Mac
Mastodon
is good. and the fact that everyone's going to Mastodon. What I'm concerned about is it going to make tech people just talk to tech people? Whereas with Twitter, you could go in there and talk to someone about fashion or talk to someone about food blogging or stuff like that if you were interested. But Mastodon to me seems like it's just a lot of tech people.
It's not. It's really not. Like there are right now. There is mainly very geeky people and very, very fringe kind of on the edge people that just don't want to be on Twitter, and some really people just trash talking Twitter. But I've seen people talk about all kinds of things, and I've seen that most of the blind community is there. And I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be a splintering of all these communities going to different places. And that was one of the nice things about Twitter was it was the town square. Everybody could talk to everybody. But, the interesting thing is that, Meta has more people on it than Twitter. And, there's Instagram and there's TikTok and all these places. Twitter had about 300 million users. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of, 8 billion people now? That's not that many. Yep. That's not that many. I mean, Mastodon is getting up to 10 million, which is a lot, but it's just going to be where do people want to go? And I'm also seeing more brands on Mastodon as well.
That's interesting.
Well, also, Mastodon is still in the early days. I feel like you're going to get the techie people there first because they're going to be the ones that aren't scared to dive into a new thing and mess around, try it out. And as Mastodon is growing and trying to figure out exactly what it wants to do and how it wants to end up, the techie people are going to be the ones that are there playing with it, messing around with it. Mm-hmm. Once it kind of stables out and they figure out what exactly they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and more people come over from other places, and Twitter, I don't know what Twitter is going to happen to Twitter, and it's not looking good. But I think that once the people start kind of coming over and messing around on Mastodon and checking it out, I think it'll grow over time. I think it's just the early days, and in the early days, you always get the tech people first, really, it seems like.
And, oh, go ahead, Lauren.
I was just going to say, when, Twitter first started, it was, this is more natural than, Facebook, or, this is the newest thing, whatever. And it just kind of started, smaller, like you guys were talking about, and finally grew. And so now we're at this point where Mastodon is it's natural and it's community and it's, just a small little kind of thing starting up. And so it's going to be cool to see where it goes eventually.
Well, that's the thing I like about it so much is that because it's early days, it's not out of control right now. It's still real clean. Mm-hmm. People are talking about, a lot of tech stuff because there is a lot of tech people on there, but there are other stuff on there as well. So far, it's really clean. It's simple, but gets the point across with most of the same functionality as everything else. So, yeah, I mean, I actually like it. So,
and musicians can even share their audio on there because, if you don't want people to copy it, that's going to be a problem. But if you want to give a sample of your new track, you can do that on Mastodon. You can share audio clips.
Yep.
Yeah. I really like the fact that there's a lot of other developers that are implementing being able to post to Mastodon through their apps, which is pretty cool.
Buffer just added that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of apps that are adding that capability. So I think that's pretty cool. If you're sitting at your desk and you're doing work and something comes up and you want to shoot something out really quick, the great thing about that is you can have an app where you can post, right away without having to go log in and then get sucked into scrolling for an hour or two or whatever it is. You can still post without having to go in and get distracted and sucked in. I think that's actually a really good idea to be able to post without getting sucked in for a lot of people. Once they get in there, they start reading stuff and you just kind of go on for the next hour. So,
but the biggest, we could talk about Mastodon for a whole episode, and eventually I think one of the things that we need to do pretty soon is have an episode just talking about what is available for social media out there. we've done that a few years ago on the iACast, but I think it's a good time to do that again. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up is Tapbots, the creators of Tweetbot, has come out with their client called Ivory. And Ivory is kind of it is the most Twitter-like clients for Mastodon and with the most customization. I've been using it for a few days, comparing it to another client called Ice Cubes, which I really like, that works on Mac. And so we're starting to see a massive amount of these clients for Mastodon. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing is, Mona from the makers of Spring, the Spring app for Twitter. We're starting to see all of these clients come out and that are mainstream, they mimic what you had on Twitter. And I think that's what's bringing people over, because there was a Mastodon app. There's also the Toot app and all these others that are great and all. But I think now that we're starting to see all these mainstream Twitter clients that are becoming Mastodon clients, because they're basically the Twitter client just wrapped with Mastodon instead. It's working really well for the mainstream audience, and that's why I think we're starting to see more and more people come over, plus the change to Twitter's third-party app policy. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
No, except for Mastodon is just as distracting as any other freaking social network. Just saying. I just jumped over here to, see what type of notifications I have. And unless Michael's phones are in Do Not Disturb, he probably got notified that I've sent 5 boosts of different people. Yeah, it's addicting. Anyways, that's all.
It is.
Well, there's also way too many new apps that come out, which makes you want to stop and play with all the apps, see what the differences are, all the different functionalities and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, you could really get down a rabbit hole these days with all the new toys out,
I will tell you, with Ivory, it does announce messages with Siri.
Ooh.
So,
How is the voiceover accessibility of Ivory?
It has some issues. It's not my favorite with voiceover. It works. You can do everything with it. It plays a bunch of different sounds. It has its own custom notification sound. It does a lot of different things, and you could customize the UI to do pretty much everything. They even have a little drawer so you could hide the controls on each post, like boost and or all those things. You can turn those off, so you have to bring up a drawer to do those things, which other clients don't have. Ivory also has a widget as well, so.
How much is Ivory?
They have subscriptions. Their most expensive subscription is a lot of money. It's $24 a year. But I paid that because I do want to support those guys to make a good app.
$24 a year? Is that what you said?
Yes.
That's not horribly
Not
expensive.
terrible.
I paid $10 for Spring. Granted, that is a lifetime subscription, but
which means I guess it died, so now the life ended.
Yeah.
Twitter murdered it.
Yes. And there is there's a cheaper subscription in Ivory. I think that the 24 is kind of like a extra, to support the app. Kind of, I don't remember the cheaper price, but there is one.
See, this is an interesting scenario because all these apps are coming out and you want to try and play with all of them. And yes, you can use them for free in some way or another, but you only get a few of the features, not all of the features. And so, I mean, you could really spend a lot of money, playing with all these different apps, trying to figure out which one is going to land and, work well with the thing that you're looking for in an app. So
Ivory gives you a free trial, so that's kind of nice too.
Yeah, that's good. We don't know what all the rest they're going to do, but it's good at least they're giving you a free trial. And on Ivory with their free trial, is it unlimited to all of their features for the free trial, or
yes,
are you?
I believe so.
That's good. That's a good thing then.
Yep. So this is the time in our episode where we want to talk about something that we promote, kind of like our little ad spot. But for this time, I want to bring up Michael and Marty to talk about Unmute, what it's about. We kind of did a little bit of that at the beginning of the episode, but let's go ahead and do that again and talk about what each podcast and each of the call like what the call and the podcasts are about, and what time you can, those are recorded and released and all those good things. So you want to take it away?
Sure. So Unmute is live on the ACB community, and we are Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Western. Once we go off the air, it gets edited down and put out as a podcast, which you can find in the Unmute Presents feed. And along with that, Michael, you want to tell them what we have to offer for the other shows within our feed?
Certainly. So we're publishing 3 times a week, the Tuesday call that Marty and Michael mentioned. And then on Thursdays, we post a slightly longer form piece of content. And those come out typically around 3 a.m. when Michael remembers to pre-record them and schedule them. Sundays, we post a short form. My goal is to be under 5 minutes of let me or Marty or Demasi or anyone who wants to teach you something. What is something I can teach you right now to make your technology experience to be slightly better? So you may get blind shell content over there. You may get Android content, iPhone content, Mac OS and Windows, or I don't know, just some other generic piece of technology teaching. So you can learn something new about that. And that's the recap of what we're doing with the podcast. It's been fun, and we love live engagement. If you'd like to join us on Tuesdays, again at 10 a.m. Pacific time, that's 1 p.m. Eastern, head on over to acb.community. That'll redirect you to the place where you can get more information about what the ACB community is and how you can participate.
And one thing that we have not mentioned yet, which will be the last thing that we mention, is there is one other way you can catch Unmute content, along with all of the other content that you can find on iACast network as well. And Michael, do you want to talk about what that would be?
So we talked about the radio station earlier, but we also have our new podcast feed. If you go to your podcast app of choice and search for the iACast network, you can get all of our content all wrapped up in one feed. So that is everything on the iACast podcast, the Unmute Presents content, and also hands-on safety and any other our unboxings, which we're going to have a new one of coming up pretty soon, February 3rd, and any other content that we provide. So be looking for that, and it's going to be pretty exciting. So that feed is available for you to subscribe to, so check it out. All right, so on to our topic for the day, and that's about artificial intelligence. And, we've brought it up before. We've talked about ChatGPT, but we wanted to have a good talk about this. So I'm curious, how are you guys using AI currently? One thing I want to mention is I'm starting to do YouTube video editing. And one of the neatest things was in iMovie, there is an auto volume button. And it, like if you have background music and speech, it will automatically change the volume levels to be the right amount for the background music and the speech. And it's really cool. And like they use some cool intelligence to make that happen. But how are you guys using AI?
So I'm using ChatGPT, and for those who don't know what ChatGPT is, I asked ChatGPT to explain yourself as if you were talking to a 5-year-old. And it said ChatGPT is a computer program that can talk and understand what people say. It's kind of like a robot that can have a conversation with you. And that's a good explanation of what ChatGPT is, aside from the fact it doesn't talk, though I suppose you could use the GPT API to make it actually talk to you. Project for Michael later. Anyways, I am using
Don't tempt me.
that. I know. I am using ChatGPT to generate show notes and other descriptions for content. But my AI starts with a tool called Alphonic, and this audio episode will go through Alphonic. And typically what happens is I get an automatically generated transcript from a tool called Whisper AI. And this allows me to have text so I can feed portions of that that text to ChatGPT and get a summary of it or a rewritten description of it. Now, and that was announced by Alphonic in December of last year, 2022 for those counting. Anyways, I was on Alphonic today though, and they released another feature yesterday that I just learned about that is going to save me, I think, a lot of time and energy, and that is an AI generated EQ function. So it's going to take your S sounds and clean them up a little bit for you in your audio if you want it to. Ooh. And the samples that they demonstrated in their blog are like, that's night and day, and it sounds like totally different equipment. Ooh. So it's interesting how that's going to be. And yes, I will run this episode through that just to see how it turns out.
And by the way, Michael, you don't need another distraction. And moving on, I'm going to go and bring up actually something controversial. And Lauren's here today, so this is good because you can chime in on this. I'm sure you'll have a lot of perspective on this. But so again, with Chat GPT, there is a lot of controversy around education and students going in and coming up with all these crazy papers. You got to write a paper. They throw it into Chat GPT and boom, 3 seconds later, they have the whole paper all done. They submit it, or there's all kinds of different things. So schools are kind of upset about this because, well, this is not how they want the students to learn. It kind of does it for them. The students aren't really doing the work, and on and on. So, Lauren, I'm sure that you've heard a lot about controversy education. You're in that realm. So I would love to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, it was actually kind of funny because he's like, how are you guys using AI? And I was going to go, to write my essays. Oh wait, we're not supposed to do that. Never mind, I don't do that at all. Really, seriously though. Anyways, yes, ChatGPT is very controversial in the education community, mainly because, students, what they try to do is put it through ChatGPT or other AI systems and try to basically manipulate the paper so that it sounds like it's in their own words, but it's not their own ideas. And so that can be an issue. Also, the way that ChatGPT and others, they do citations is a whole nother deal because it looks legit. You tell it to write a paper and you have it do citations and it looks legit, but it doesn't take you anywhere. So there's just a lot of different controversies surrounding that. But then also in copyright compliance. So if you think about when people are using this to generate courses, maybe professors want to use it to create content, or maybe universities want to use ChatGPT to fill out their websites or just things like that. Whose right is this, and how do we think about that in terms of copyright? So there's just a lot of controversy surrounding education with this.
So Lauren, what do you think, since this is such a new technology and it just kind of came out of nowhere, and so right now it's kind of the wild, wild west. There isn't any restrictions really around it. There's nothing. So what do you feel the educational institutions should do about this whole way people are trying to get content out of all these AI systems and using it to do all of their work for them? I mean, how do you think the schools or the education institutions, colleges, whatever it may be, do you think they should do something? Do you think they shouldn't do something? If they do, what do you think they should do to try and combat this? I mean, it's kind of everyone's got a different opinion on it.
So it's interesting. I found out through my work, actually, that they are trying to come up with AIs to detect AIs, essentially. So they're trying to detect whether a student's paper was written with an AI. Using an AI.
It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how successful they are with that. It'll be a conversation that will just keep going on. We'll have to check back and kind of see how things evolve as we move forward with it. But it's real interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to be people. I mean, professors, they start to know students' writing. You know, by the first couple times, first couple essays, like professors, they kind of get to know. So I think just having strict guidelines and having systems in place to make sure that students are writing their own papers. Also, you know, there are things like lockdown browsers and things like that. And I don't know to what extent that would help, but there are things out there that we can definitely use, and it'll be interesting to see how what ends up taking place here.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah. So, Marty, are you using ChatGPT at all? Are you or any other AI?
Yeah, I've messed around with Chat GPT. I haven't done anything too crazy with it. I've kind of thrown some suggestions at it to see what it would do. I haven't really used it for any kind of work thing. I just been playing around with it to see what kind of information it'll give me back, giving it certain parameters and keywords to see, you know, how close it gets to accuracy, you know, on what I ask it to do. And that's about as far as I have gotten with it. I haven't gotten real crazy, but somebody, Michael Babcock, tries to make the thing write apps for it and give it code for apps, and he just gets down a rabbit hole that might make your head spin. And like I said earlier, he doesn't need another distraction.
Yeah, and I do the same thing. I will, you know, I put in, you know, I work on a big app in the community, and I, you know, will put in, you know, source code to see if it will, you know, come up with a solution to a problem or debug a bug that I have in my code. And so it's really good for things like that. But I would also say it's good for coming up with inspiration. That is really where ChatGPT and AI is really good. You know, Michael Babcock, have you tried GitHub Copilot yet?
I have not tried GitHub Copilot, but I've heard some of Taylor's content that she did, and it's really intriguing how it works. And I just am not as much of a programmer as I'd like to make myself believe that I am.
Well, you know, you could use it for AppleScript. You could use it for automations.
Ooh, yeah, true that.
Have you thought about those things?
AppleScript,
Yeah.
Or it could be a way to learn, what's that programming language everyone's using? JavaScript? Is that what's
Yeah.
No, Java. What does Drafts use, Michael, to build actions? Because that would be a good way to learn it.
You know, I don't remember what Drafts uses. I thought it was JavaScript. I think that's what it's using, but I don't remember. But that would be good to learn to see what they're using, because Copilot uses GPT as well, and they have a different model for Copilot, and I think that these tools are going to be where we're going in using computers. And you know, we were on a podcast last night, and Lauren, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but one of the things that a lot of people in technology and podcasting are saying, it's not going to be about writing the good papers anymore in education. It's going to be about prompt writing. How well can you put in your ideas to the AI or to the idea into the generator for it to come up with the content that you want, and then fact checking that it came out with the right information. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that might be where education goes in the future? Because I know some places are into that, and some places are kind of like, oh, we don't even want that.
I can tell you here at my university, it is very much not going to go in that direction. They are very into, you know, it has to be your own original work. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of brought it up to them, like, you know, but you still have to know the concepts to some degree in order to check it and,
right.
You know, make sure that it's outputting the right things. And they're like, no, it needs to be your original everything.
But, you know, I think those things will change over time, because there was a time when I went to school back in the day where your papers had to be handwritten. You know, your math problems had to be written out on paper. You couldn't use a tablet. They didn't have tablets. And, you know, even going to now, you know, everybody has iPads. Everybody has computers. Everybody does everything that way. And so I think this will be the next big shift, if you will.
It could be. Yeah.
If you want information, you have AI that can provide it. You know, and I think GPT and what OpenAI has provided has really set us forward in intelligence by a lot. There was a prediction, and I don't know if this is true. There's no way of knowing. There are trends that are thinking that the singularity could happen in as few as 7 years. Does anybody know what the singularity is?
No, what is it?
Where AI or artificial intelligence will develop enough learning capacity to become self-aware.
Oh, cool.
In other words, Skynet.
Interesting.
So
yeah, definitely.
I don't know if that's the case or not, but I think when GPT and other models figure out how to learn themselves, and if they are given access to the full internet, I think that that will be a very interesting time, because we're going to get to a point where artificial intelligence learns how to learn. Right now, we're providing it models and things like that to learn, but eventually we will be giving it the initial information, kind of like bootstrapping it with what it needs to know, and then it can go out and learn more from that.
Well, I believe that's why everything, or at least ChatGPT, is totally free right now, because they're kind of using, the audience, the people, to go in, and it's getting trained by all the things that everyone's typing in there every day. And that's an easy way to really make something intelligent and really see what it can do, while training it at the same time and making the product even better. So,
and they do say on the ChatGPT website that it's a research project. And you have, and you even have, like, from OpenAI, what Michael talked about, Whisper AI, is from the same company, OpenAI. You have DALL-E, which is what's that technology called? What's the image recognition technology they use? I don't know. I don't remember if it's Stable Diffusion or if it's something else that they're using.
I think it is Stable Diffusion. I just didn't remember that.
Yeah, it's it's kind of interesting. They are saying that artificial intelligence is a term they use for uninvented technologies or technologies that have failed. So for like text and dialogue, we have GPT. For image recognition, we have OCR and object recognition. For creating images, we have Stable Diffusion and other things. All of those are properly named terms that are under the umbrella of AI. So I think when we get a successful new technology, they've given it a name instead of just calling it AI, because we can quantify it. We know what it is. So it's very interesting to see where all this is going, and I think it's here to stay. We're going to have AI, and it's just going to get better. And in fact, I'm curious what y'all's thoughts are. I think AI is going to replace AR, augmented reality, and virtual reality as the next big thing.
I think AI is gonna come in and coexist with AR and VR, because I think AI is gonna be what makes AR and VR be the next big thing, because you can get the details from a sign, for example, that you're looking at, that the AI says, oh, he's looking at a sign for this restaurant. Why don't we go ahead and tell him what the most popular meal is and what times they're open and when they're busy versus the best time? And would you like to be able to schedule an appointment with that person we were just talking to yesterday that we said that we need to book an appointment with for lunch? And I think that's where things are going to go. And it's scary, but it's also exciting.
Or based on what you've told the AI, not just an algorithm, but an actual AI, you would like this kind of meal because of your tastes. And I think that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Also kind of creepy.
Kind of creepy, yes. But, the interesting thing is, unlike, I think, a lot of things, this might be able to be done on your phone. I mean, OCR, now on your phone. Image recognition, people detection, all on your phone, right?
Yep.
So what's to say that this all won't happen where it could all be on your phone in the future? I mean, think of ChatGPT all on your phone eventually.
I mean, a lot of that stuff is already on there. I mean, OCR, being able to scan a document and have it OCR for you. I mean, you can do that on your phone. I mean, there's a lot of these functions at some level are already being able to be done on your phone.
That's what I was saying. You already have that ability. So, and take OCR, and I know I'm giving away all the secrets here, but I can't help it. What if you could take OCR text and run it through ChatGPT and say, reformat this to look the way it should on paper, right? What if you say, take this text and format the punctuation that is missing? Just think if you add that to OCR technology, guys.
Yep. Let's get it going, Michael. Where's it at?
Here's another thing. You can take that same OCR technology, for example. You can scan, say you have some sort of a discount code or coupon or something. You could scan it in using, barcode technology or, screen recognition with OCR, scan it in. And then you could put it through whatever ChatGPT or whatever it is, and it'll send out that code and what it is you're looking for to purchase and give you all the best pricing to buy it. I mean, that would be a great way to use it also.
Marty, you just gave me an idea. I want to try it later with ChatGPT. I want to ask it if it will understand UPC codes, and then if you could copy and paste.
Ooh.
Yeah, Michael gets it now.
See?
See,
I think the three of us could be dangerous.
Yes, we need to wrap it up soon because we are coming up on the time. But I do want to mention, that's this thing about AI is it's artificial intelligence, but I also see it as augmented intelligence because we all have some great ideas, but sometimes, like for example, the example I tell people a lot of times, I had ChatGPT build me a script that would, when I told Terminal that I had a new client, it would build out all the folders I needed in Dropbox for that client. And that's something I've wanted to do for 6 months, 8 months now, but I've never spent the time to go learn how to do it. And now that I have ChatGPT doing it, I can go back and look at the code and be like, this is how it did it. And so it augmented the knowledge I already had.
Right. And that's the key. If you can tell it what you need and you could tell it precisely, you can do it. And then the last tip I have, and Michael, I don't know if you know this, you will get better results as you iterate. So you say, I want something that can do this. You get a basic shell. Then you say, add this function. You get it a little more practice. Add this more other function. Add these together. Keep having it build out iteratively your app or whatever you're working on, or your play or your short story.
Or this gave me an error. Why did it give me an error?
Right.
And it sees and it says, oh, you should go install this dependency.
So keep trying. Don't just let one prompt keep you away from it. So give it a try. And with that being all said, I think this has been a great discussion. We could have another 5 of these really, but we can't. But we may touch on this again when there's more news and more to talk about. But to start us off, Lauren, what is your pick of the week and where can people find you online?
All right, my pick of the week is a laptop riser, which is really cool. The brand is it's called Cockney. It's a Cockney laptop riser. It's made of aluminum, and you can actually find the notes or the link in the show notes. I've actually posted it to y'all. But anyway, it's really nice because it can move your laptop to different levels. And instead of your laptop just being higher or a little bit lower than what you might expect, the keyboard actually goes to a 45-degree angle as well. And that's what helps to lift up the laptop. So it's really portable, it's really lightweight, and I really like it. It's pretty cool. You can find me pretty much everywhere. I'm all over online. So just look up Lauren Flenner or Lauren Bradford. My last name is in the process of changing, so just look up one of those two things, same person, and you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Mastodon, all over. So.
All right. Michael, Michael, if you want to go ahead and give your pick, and where can people find you?
Sure. So my pick is a tool that I've been using for quite a while, and I will tell people primarily where they can find me and some tips that Demasi is teaching me, and that is LaunchBar. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm obsessed with this tool, and I was like, my mind was blown yesterday when Demasi's like, yeah, if you just press and hold command space, it'll take the highlighted text and you can send that to something like Parcel to quickly add a tracking number to Parcel. I'm like, whoa, I did not know that. So I'm learning some things. Demasi is posting some audio content for me, and they're being turned into videos. So you can find me at Payown, P-A-Y-O-W-N, on any of your favorite social platforms. Or if you head on over to payown.live, P-A-Y-O-W-N.live, that'll take you right to my YouTube channel where this new content is coming out. And recently we've published some blind shell content, and I showed Text Expander and LaunchBar working together to help me post some blog posts. So again, that's payown.live.
All right, Marty, what's your pick, and where can people find you online?
Yeah, so my pick is an app which works on Mac, iPhone, and iPad. It's called Play, and it is a read it later app, but specifically for YouTube videos. So if you're coming across videos while you are searching, researching, or maybe it's just something you came across and you like it a lot, Play is where you would save your video, and then you can come back to it later, and it's great. It works perfect with VoiceOver. The developers go a long way to make sure that the app works on all the platforms well with VoiceOver, and it gives you a lot of parameters. You can do hashtagging, you can sort it by however you want to. It's really great. It's lightweight, it's super fast, and it's a great way to keep track of videos you want to save. So definitely check it out. If you want to find me, you could find me on Mastodon at GT11. That's the numerals 11. And yeah, there you go.
And that's at iaccessibility.net. Is that our social? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yep. That last part's important. Because if they don't know what server, then it's hard to tell. All right. My pick for this week, speaking of Mastodon, is Ivory. We talked about it in our news section, but I feel like I'm using it so much now. I'm starting to delete apps off my phone. I have had 5 Mastodon clients, and I've deleted the Mastodon and Metatext app. I don't really use VoiceOver, so I don't really need Metatext for my use. I know it's a great app. I'm hearing it has some support issues, but I don't know exactly what those entail. But Ivory works really good. Great push notifications. You even get a little picture, kind of like you do in the Messages app, to show you who boosted, favorited, or mentioned you. So really happy about that, and just works really well. Kind of keeps up with all the iOS coolness, so really cool there. So check out Ivory if you want to give it a shot. There are some weirdness with VoiceOver, but it can be done. As for where you could find me, I'm Mike Doise. That's MikeDoise in most places. On Twitter, Mastodon, it's Mike Doise at techopolis.social, techopolis.social. And you could also find me on Facebook, Michael Doise, and on YouTube, you could subscribe to my channel at Michael Doise. And you can always subscribe to this channel as well. So we really appreciate that. And thanks to the people that broke us over 100 subscribers. So with all that being said, thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Michael, Marty, and Lauren. And it's been great. It's been a great episode. And we will see you in 2 weeks for yet another iACast. So thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next time. And